Our next speaker is Ms. Violet Roumeliatis, CEO of Settlement Services International, which is a community organisation and social business that works to support newcomers to Australia and other vulnerable individuals to achieve their full potential. During her 10 years as CEO, she has taken SSI from a Sydney-based organisation with 68 staff to 900 plus workforce that supports more than 52,000 people nationally each year. Now, among her accolades, Violet was made a member of the Order of Australia for outstanding service to the community in 2020. She's a former Telstra Australia Businesswoman of the Year and has been named one of Australian Financial Review's top 100 women of influence in the category of diversity and inclusion. Please make her welcome.
Thank you very much, Virginia, for that very warm welcome. And of course, those achievements are collective. You don't achieve things like that in an organisation that's community-based without the work and efforts, skills, passion of many people in this country and some in this room, or in this, some faces that I know, loved colleagues and friends. And thank you very much, Simon, because of the work of the foundation, and fundraising is critical to ensure that we can collect and showcase the many stories of our history here at this great museum. So please, let's do the best we can to raise funds to have many, many more stories on this beautiful monument. I would also like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and their elders past, present and emerging, and to any First Nations people here today. Ancestors have walked this country, and I acknowledge their special and unique place in our nation's historical, cultural and linguistic identity. I'm so very pleased to be here today. In my role as the CEO of Settlement Services International, we have the privilege of greeting many new migrants and refugees on their arrival to Australia and connecting them to services and programs that help them find their feet in a new country. Migrants bring so much richness to our country and indeed Australia. Australia is one of the world's great multicultural success stories, and so it is fitting that there be a national cultural institution with responsibility for and a permanent gallery dedicated to this success story. Now, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, 30% of Australia's population is now born overseas. The economic contribution of migrants has been well documented and has been invaluable. Research from Oxford University's Ian Golding found that migrants are 2 to 3 times more likely to start a business. Hediat is one person, a case in point we'll hear from soon. 2 to 3 times more likely to win a Nobel Prize, and 2 to 4 times more likely to lodge a patent. It's pretty extraordinary. But of course, this doesn't include the rich cultural and social contributions that migrants bring, along with admirable traits like resilience and adaptability. The research also shows that a warm welcome from the local community makes a big difference in enabling newcomers to feel part of things, and being part of the National Monument to Migration is an extension of that welcome. That sense that you now belong here, that this is your home, and that your story matters. Being here brings back memories of my late father, and so it's a bit of an emotional time for me. My parents made the journey to Australia after World War II and the Civil War in Greece, seeking a better life. My dad had wanted to study dentistry, and then the war broke out and he joined the Greek forces. He was actually awarded a bravery medal in the war, and when it was over, he couldn't proceed with his studies for economic reasons, so he decided to migrate to Australia. And the transition was a real culture shock for him. But he arrived with aspirations and was introduced to my mother. They married and then went on to have 3 girls, my sisters and I. My father opened a corner store, the salvation of many Greeks of the time, of course, and many others after that. And he worked very, very long hours in the business that he ran with my mum, while making sure us kids had access to great educational opportunities, with lots of books around the home, and of course, Greek dancing lessons, Greek school, and many wonderful trips on weekends to Kiama Blowhole and African Lion Safari and many other wonderful things and memories growing up, a lot of family events. And as a child, I saw firsthand their resilience and their optimism, the support that they had from the surrounding Greek community, and the support they in turn gave others as passionate and active leaders in the community. Because of course, organisations like ours were not around in those days. But irrelevant of that, even today, services like SSI cannot do the job they do without community, without diaspora communities, without civil society that steps up and plays that critical role of engaging and connecting and making people feel welcome. And my parents were hardworking and humble, and at one stage they even mortgaged a family home and bought a small block of land in East Terrace in Bankstown, where the first Greek Orthodox church was built in Bankstown, and it's a very big, thriving parish today. So I'm very proud of their legacy and the many that worked with them. I saw the things they did to integrate into the Australian community, while also contributing to embrace and celebrate their own cultural heritage. And as their daughter, I stand here today very proud of my dual Australian-Greek heritage. But it wasn't always rosy. There were hard times. There was a lot of challenges, there was racism and discrimination. And standing here today, working with migrant communities, I think all of us know that there are things that we can do as Australians to really lift around the issue of diversity and Australianness, and that multiple identities. What brings us together is those values, and our love of a country, and an aspiration to be the best we can be, whether we're ordinary lives, like most of us, which is great, or others who stand out in the extraordinary. We all have an important role to play in contribution, our friends and our families. Now, I first heard about the National Monument to Migration many years ago when it was called the Welcome Wall. My dad had passed away, and the family wanted a way to honour him and his contribution, his memory and his life. And so the story of the Katsaris family is now part of this collection of personal stories and family histories. However, in recent discussions with the museum, I became aware that not all countries were well represented on the monument, and so my organisation initiated a program with the museum called Honour a New Migrant, that Simon referred to. It does cost to incorporate these stories onto the monument, and we are well aware that new migrants and refugees may not be in a position to fund this themselves. So part of the initiative, our organisation, along with Multicultural Australia, a great organisation in Queensland, helps identify individuals and families who might like to have their stories historically recorded in this way, and the museum provides the funds through its generous donation program. And together with the museum, we hope to develop a fully rounded collection of stories and the migrant experience, as this is vital to understanding the Australian identity and ensuring diverse people are reflected in the national story. So building awareness of the migration experience to Australia in turn helps promote understanding and greater community harmony. And in gathering these stories, we must not forget our First Nations people and their stories as the original inhabitants and custodians of this land. The museum does good work in this space, but I hope that one day soon we will see a First Nations voice to Parliament enshrined in the Constitution. Today I'm proud to say that 14 people we have come to know through our settlement program are being honoured today. They come from Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Samoa, Lebanon, Turkey and South Africa. And it's so important to have this broad representation, as this accurately reflects the richness of the migrant experience. And I must say, I am pleased to see that Hediyat Ozian, a refugee from Afghanistan, will be speaking shortly, and he's a graduate of our Ignite Small Business Initiative, and through the provision of the program's support, Hediyat has been able to create an amazing business. He'll talk about more. But importantly, he's provided mentorship and jobs to Australians of refugee backgrounds. And this really is the true migration success story, many such examples. So congratulations to you all. I hope you feel warmly welcomed and truly a part of Multicultural Australia's success story. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, we would like to welcome our next speaker, who is a renowned Greek-Australian documentary photographer who for decades has worked on explorations of historical and contemporary stories of Greek migration to Australia. Her work is known for the way that it seeks out a dialogue and narratives that speak to audiences in the two countries. Please make welcome Effie Alexakis.
Welcome, thank you. I'll be speaking about the very Reverend Nektarios Zobalas. I'm greatly inspired by the humanitarian deeds that he's well known for. In early 2021, before the pandemic lockdowns, I started going to the Greek Orthodox Church of St. Constantine and Eleni in Newtown, where he operates a soup kitchen for the local community. I photographed the volunteers and the homeless that visit the soup kitchen. I created an exhibition, and now I hope to produce a book based on his work. Father Nektarios started preparing meals for people when he was the parish priest in Marrickville. 35 years ago, he was transferred to Newtown, where the soup kitchen really took hold. Meals are provided daily with the help of a team of committed volunteers. He also provides spiritual guidance and financial support to those in need. Father Nektarios was born Zacharia on the Dodecanese island of Kos in 1935. In 1963, he was in a town in Greece called Trikala to begin his journey within the Greek Orthodox Church, a plan which had to be aborted. He says at first he didn't want to come to Australia, and I quote him, "My sisters Kseni and Dimitra were older than me. They were in Australia at the time, so I came. In Greek tradition, you have to support your sisters." He came on the Ellenis in 1964. He recalls that it was the second journey to Australia for that vessel. Father Nektarios is a man of few words, but very wise words. So when I inquired what he recalled about the journey out, he simply stated, quote, "I remember that I ate, I drank, and I slept." We had some relatives on the ship, and we had a good parea, company, on the journey. His first impressions of Australia, he said, "When I first came, everything seemed mavra, black. All things looked anapoda, upside down. I had no plans. I worked in factories, at the waterboard, and at various jobs." After 4 years working in Australia, he was asked to go back to Greece again to care for his parents. So he left with his, at the time, unmarried sister Dimitra. His father died in 1968, but Dimitra stayed to care for their mother. In April 1970, Father Nektarios journeyed back again to Australia by aeroplane. In 1971, he was ordained as a Greek Orthodox priest. This is when his attitude about being in Australia changed. He was ecstatic that he finally had his vocation, which he had hoped for to do in Greece. He had wanted to serve in church from the age of a 5-year-old boy. It was during his time in Marrickville that he became a naturalised Australian, around 1980. He said that there were about 450 to 500 people that were returning to Greece at that time, so to help with the paperwork for their passports, he had to become naturalised. This I found very interesting because in my own research during the late 1980s, there were more Greek Australians leaving Australia than arriving due to financial pressures within Australia at that time. I finish with a quote from him. "From the moment I became a priest, all I thought about was how to be a good priest and to do my job well. The reason I was initially upset when I first came to Australia was because I thought I had lost my direction to becoming a priest." Father Nektarios is honoured to have his name on the National Monument to Migration. His niece, Sevi Sechos, representing the family, said, "It's never been about him. It's always been about giving back. He epitomises all good qualities. Having his name engraved on the monument is special to the family." I'm so enthused about representing Father Nektarios' migration story today that I do want to add my own parents' name to the monument. So I'll be connecting with someone later. So thank you for that. Thank you.